Brian Staffman, and John Dwinell.
And back here, thank you again, Brad Sarno, as always, the voice of the Spartans, who does such yeoman work, and a lot to pull together today. We're still far from over, but Brad has put in quite a tremendous effort to make sure this day goes off without a hitch, and so far it has. St. Thomas Aquinas coming in with a record of 19-10 overall, 16-3 in the East Coast Conference. Its best season since moving to the Division II level, and again, just 40 minutes away from winning the ECC regular season title. They would do that with a win today. UDC coming in with a record of 5-22 overall, 5-14 in the conference. They've lost 4 straight and 8 of 9 overall. University of District of Columbia will start things off wearing the road black with gold letters and numbers, some maroon trim around the neck, and UDC in big block letters above the number in front. STAC in the home white, maroon letters and numbers, trimmed in gold. Spartans arched above the numbers on front of the uniform. They're moving from our broadcast right to left. El Shula Odongo ready to jump off with Clenzo Brannon, and we are underway as Marcus Henderson takes the tip. Referee crew today, Jeff Bryant, Chris Bailey, and Joe Manzione. Senior John McNair getting the start today, and here's Chaz Watler now pounding the dribble up high. UDC starting in the man. McNair looking for help, finds Watler. Shot clock at 17. Stutter step by Henderson, pulls out in traffic, stopped nicely by Kasim Jones. Odongo was blocked down low. It goes out of bounds. STAC will retain with 11 on the shot clock.
With a game like this, Steve, it's just have to control your emotions. There's, you know, you're dealing with a possible championship. It's senior day. There's a lot of people in the building. There's a good energy. Just control your emotions. Get back to what you're trying to do. Get off to a hot start.
Shot clock down to 5 as Henderson with a lot of dribbling. A long three-pointer. Good! Marcus Henderson from deep downtown.
And that's how you make a statement on this basketball game right there by Marcus Henderson. And that was just pretty. And what he's done for the last 2 years for this Spartans team, he's knocked him down from the outside, and right there, just showing it off again.
Yeah, I think you were as surprised as I was to think that he scored almost 600 career points in 2 seasons. That's an amazing number. Let's give a little factoid about Henderson when we get the opportunity. Right now, it's UDC with the ball. Here's Brannon. Cross-court corner jumper for 3 is good. A quick answer for Kasim Jones.
That's the biggest thing for UDC. The Spartans are going to come out fast. They know they want to get in transition and run. As right there, Shaq McFarland and 1 as he hits the fadeaway and the foul. He's going to go to the line for the old-fashioned three-point play. But for UDC, you know the Spartans want to get out and run, Steve. They're a quick team. They love to be in transition. You have to be able to respond and get back on defense. It's going to be a tough 40 minutes. They got to be in the ball game every step of the way.
McFarland, a 79% free throw shooter with an impressive freshman season, averaging just under 9 points per game. STAC with the 6-3 lead. Here's Kasim Jones getting it into the forecourt through the STAC pressure. Pull-up jumper left side from 15 by Aaron Senegal is off the mark. McFarland driving hard to the hoop with the layup. Shaq McFarland aggressive early on. He's got 5.
And that's the quickness Shaq McFarland brings. We've talked about it. He can shoot it from the outside. He can drive the lane. We've seen him really take a liking to wanting to drive the basketball a little bit more in the recent 10, 15 games. And I'll tell you what, it is paying off. And right there, when he hits his second level, Steve, there's not many people that can defend him.
St. Thomas Aquinas defeated UDC down at our nation's capital, 86-72. That was back on January 22nd. So we're talking about 5 weeks ago. This is a pretty different STAC team, I think, than UDC saw there. And even though Mike Riley has certainly seen this on film, to have this kind of in-your-face pressure from STAC when you have to face it in this tiny confines, it can be a very intimidating thing for a visitor, especially one that's struggled of late.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the tight confines. I think that's the one big thing you really got to recognize. I mean, when you're playing a team that likes to run like that, and you feel like you are in a tight space, that makes it that much more uncomfortable. And for the Spartans, they just take advantage. And we've seen it on his home floor all year long. They get their opponents uncomfortable. Their opponents start thinking about where they are on the floor, and the Spartans just blow by them without a thought.
Here's Jones dribbling his way past Henderson into a triple team. Left side three-pointer is good. Another quick answer there is Reggie Sidbury. Cuts it back to a 2-point lead.
It's going to have to be a team effort for UDC. And right there, Sidbury getting in on the action, keeping it close.
So a pair of threes helps UDC early. Odongo to the hoop, puts it in.
A beautiful finish right there by Ashulo. He just went up strong, got above his defender, and finished it off.
Fast pace early on as Michael Terry hands up high for Senegal. Terry looking for help down low. Nice denial by Odongo. Spartans in the man. Nice entry pass for an easy layup as Clinton O'Brien with the finish.
Yeah, Odongo was on Brandon, and Odongo went for the steal, and he was just out of his reach, so Brandon had a wide open lane. Like the aggression by Odongo trying to tip that pass.
Kasim Jones with the pass. McFarland rattles a three-pointer halfway down, and it doesn't go. Here's Brandon with the rebound. Brandon, big lumbering dribble through traffic, goes right to the hoop and was pestered enough by Odongo to put up a wild shot off the mark. Here's Watler. Watler in transition, crossover dribble. On the reach and almost loses it, but somehow Watler came away with that ball. Like a quarterback recovering his own fumble 15 yards away. Spartans with the ball in a 2-point lead. We've played 3 hectic minutes here at Aquinas Hall. Here's Marcus Henderson. Henderson moving on Jones. Kicks out for McNair's three is halfway down and doesn't go. So that's 2 in a row, but on the rescue, Brandon stepped out of bounds. So McFarland had one halfway down. McNair had one halfway down. The Spartans come up empty, but they do have the ball and a 2-point edge.
And they're getting the open looks right now. Obviously, unfortunately, they're not falling for them, but a great job by the Spartans creating open looks and getting shots.
McNair from 16, that one falls. Boone McNair has 4 points.
What a phenomenal nickname, by the way. That just gets me excited to hear.
Boy, you talk about a guy who doesn't show up a lot on the score sheet, but is just loved and respected by this entire program. Left corner three-point attempt is off the mark for Sidbury. Long rebound comes for Brandon. Brandon in traffic, back for Sidbury. Quick rotation for Senegal. Senegal's three, that rattles out. So each team has been on range from downtown. The shots have not missed by much when they have. Nice pass for Odongo. Layup attempt is off the mark, but McFarland created the opportunity, and Odongo will go to the line.
That right there for Shaq McFarland. He showed he could shoot the three. He showed he can drive himself. So what happens the next time he goes to the lane? Defenders are going to crash on him, and that's exactly what happened. They crashed, and a great heads-up play there by McFarland to find Odongo underneath. He went up strong and drew the foul.
Odongo, a 69% foul shooter, and if you saw him during his first 2 seasons here, you would know what an amazing number that is. If this young man has improved any part of his game, it has been his foul shooting, which was well below the 500 mark in the early stages of his career. Duran Pope and Prince Ritson into the game for UDC. Odongo drains both. 4 points for Odongo, and it's a 6-point stack lead. We played almost 4 minutes, 14-8 St. Thomas Aquinas. And a hand check foul is called on McFarland, and he comes up looking frustrated, but Tobin Anderson says no problem. Is Chris Bailey the official making that call?
Actually looked a little bit like Kasim Jones got away with a little bit of a push-off on McFarland, but nonetheless, the foul goes against Shaq.
UDC with the ball. Ritson, bounce pass down low for big Duran Pope. Wide open elbow jumper is off the mark by Sidbury. I'm sorry, not Sidbury, that's Andre Williams, the freshman who's come into the game. And here's part of the transition that Mike Riley is going to want to see from his program to some younger players. There's seniors on the floor. Kasim Jones is one of them. Michael Terry another. But he's going to want to see these reserves pick up their games. Looks like UDC now coming out in a 2-3 zone. So we'll see how the Spartans respond to that, leading by 6. Left corner, Watler wide open for 3. Good. That's how to respond to the zone. Chaz Watler's first points of the game.
Yeah, and again, we've talked about it all year, how improved Chaz Watler's outside game has been. If you leave him open with that much space, he's going to knock it down.
And Watler that time had Andre Williams hearing footsteps. Nice defense there without ever touching a player. He did just enough to distract Williams and force the travel. Should mention that Watler had just 5 points in the game against Mercy after having 26 a year ago. And so that Jim did him no favors, but his team found a way to get a win as McNair passes up the open shot. Spartans by 9. Here's Watler, crossover dribble, fall away 16-footer is short. Odongo tries to tap the rebound to himself, but Pope comes away with the board. Crossover dribble by Jones in traffic. He's cut off by a bunch of white shirts and resets the offense. Ritson moving on James Mitchell, who just checked in, and Watler coming back with the steal, but throws it right back to Michael Terry. Ritson on the move. Ritson passes for Pope, and he's fouled by McNair. Could have been a foul. A couple of players there. St. Thomas Aquinas turning the ball over in transition. Wadler doing it on the defensive end, but turning it over in the transition offense.
That's a really nice job there by Ritson. He drove to the lane, and he could have gone up for the layup himself, but instead kind of hooked past it down low for Pope, and Pope was able to go up strong. Unable to finish, but drew the foul. But good heads-up play there by the senior.
First foul on Jonathan McNair, second on St. Thomas Aquinas. Pope is only a 47% shooter from the line on the season, but he makes the first. Jules DeCourtenay, Justin Reyes making their first appearances today. Omar Abbas in for the Firebirds. Also mention Sam Berlin into the game as Pope makes both. It's a 7-point STAC lead. Berlin sat out Tuesday's game with an ankle injury. He was in very, very tall street clothes. Cut quite a line for a 6'10" guy, but I asked him if he bought it off the rack, and he said no, he had it made.
I was going to say, he's got to get special orders.
That was surprising.
Yeah.
Reyes backs his way in. Meanwhile, Reyes spins it off the glass too hard, but he's back in position to get his own rebound and pulls it back out. No reset on the shot clock as it didn't hit the rim, so it's down to 5. Here's Mitchell. High screen by Berlin. Mitchell for 3 is good!
And that's a deep 3 there by Mitchell, and that's such a luxury for the Spartans. Marcus Henderson and James Mitchell, they're like interchangeable players, and right there you saw it.
STAC by 10. Right side, here's a Boss for 3. That's off the mark. Long rebound comes for Aaron Cust, who's into the game. DeCourtenay spills hard in front of our position. Cust almost turns it over. It goes off the foot of Berlin, but they're saying it hit UDC on the way out. I guess it touched Andre Williams on the way. So 13:52 to play in the first half, and as he has done throughout this strong stretch later in the year, Tobin Anderson going liberally into his bench. This is a very deep Spartan squad. They have a 10-point lead. We played just over 6.
And the depth is the key when you want to make a playoff run.
Sam Berlin with a baseline jumper from 12 is good.
The maturation of Sam Berlin all year has been phenomenal, and he's really come into his own. Not that at that size he really needs that much more to come into, but he's just improved his footwork and improved his entire game.
Pope on the baseline into a triple team and is roofed by Berlin. UDC will keep it, but 25 on the shot clock. And again, you mentioned the maturation of Berlin. Very likely earlier in the season he would have committed a foul right there. He stayed vertical and did the job as UDC retains possession, trailing by a dozen. Spartans putting up points in a hurry early on. Kick out to the right corner, 3-point attempt. That one rattles out as Senegal couldn't get it to go. Pope with the rebound, battles in traffic, but DeCourtenay skies for the board. And a second straight time, both Jules DeCourtenay and Sam Berlin that time going vertical, not getting off their defensive set and causing UDC to miss the shot. Boy, Sam Berlin, the big fella, running the floor, and Mitchell's pass was just a little bit behind him, and Berlin couldn't corral it. Tobin Anderson saying something to Berlin, but not an easy pass for him to handle.
I'll tell you what, something fun could have came out of that.
Yeah, could have. We've seen Berlin finally get a couple of those dunks that we were looking for, but that one would have been on the run. We might have had to stop and change the backboard.
A little Shaquille O'Neal type dunk.
You're talking to a Charles Barkley era guy here, so, I date myself a little bit. Meanwhile, left side three-pointer is good. Michael Terry hits a tray. And the Firebirds finally stop the run. It's 22-13 St. Thomas Aquinas.
Michael Terry can knock him down. He shoots 36% from beyond the arc, Steve. So Aaron Cust right there needs to get a little bit more aggressive defensively, not give him that much space.
Cust off the curl, drives. He's rejected from behind, but he goes to the deck as he was also fouled from behind, and I believe Michael Terry is the one who is called. In fact, it is Michael Terry, says referee Chris Bailey.
I'll tell you what, if those two are on each other for a good amount of this game, it's going to be fun to watch. Both really athletic guys. They stand about the same height. They're really quick, and that's going to be a fun matchup right there. And right, that is the second foul on the senior Michael Terry as well. So something interesting to watch over the course of the game.
Aaron Cust makes the first of 2. Spartans had a hard time at the foul line against Mercy on Tuesday night. Remember, STAC's rotation in the conference schedule, their bye was Thursday night. So UDC has played Tuesday and Thursday this week, while the Spartans have not seen action since Tuesday. So on top of the trip, this could be a tired UDC team as DeCourtenay gets into the lane too early, and that's a violation. So the foul shot did not go anyway. It wouldn't have counted if it had. It's a 10-point STAC lead, 23-13. We've played 7.5 minutes.
And you hear Coach Tobin Anderson yelling, Jules, be aggressive right here. They're trying to press and press hard, and you can see Jules DeCourtenay being really aggressive right now on the defensive end.
Well, DeCourtenay didn't come up with the steal cleanly, and he went for the dive and low bridge Clenz O'Brien and took his feet out from under him. So DeCourtenay called for the foul. That's his first and the third on St. Thomas Aquinas. We've talked about the struggles that UDC has had, especially in recent weeks, dropping 8 of its last 9. It's a long trip here up the seaboard to get to this game. It's a team that has to travel a lot. They are out on an island down there. There's nobody out there in our nation's capital for them to play against in this conference. So they're used to traveling a lot, but you could see right away that Tobin Anderson and company want to put a lot of pressure on this UDC team and not give them any life here in this game, and the Firebirds are holding their own thus far. Kick out left side, wide open 3 is off the mark by Jones. Long rebound comes back out and kick back for Jones, who drives the baseline, finds Pope. Pope flutes it up off the glass and in. Duran Pope with a nice soft touch. He's got 4.
Yeah, good vision there by Jones. He drew some defenders in and found an open Pope.
And Aaron Custer explodes to the hole in the other direction. A quick answer for the Spartans. And that's something else we've seen this team develop. You worked hard to get a basket. We're just going to run the floor and score on you again if you're not ready. And UDC wasn't in that transition sequence.
And heads up recognition there by Aaron Cuss as that shot is missed there by Jones. Cuss recognized, hey, you're going to give me the space. We're going to run the floor, and I'm going to take it to the hole, and he's got the speed to do it.
Kasim Jones rushing that shot up. Probably not the kind of thing you want to do against a team that can score points in a hurry like STAC. You want to run your offense. Here's Reyes backing his way in. Reyes ducks under, moving in on Kasim Jones and lays it in. Justin Reyes is on the board, 27-15. Spartans back up by a dozen.
You know, we talk about the depth all the time, but one player that's always just going to be fun to watch the next 3 years is Justin Reyes. And right there you saw it. He backed in, played the low post game, and won it. He can go. He's athletic. He's a fun kid to watch.
Little high weave here by UDC. That three-point attempt by Senegal is off. Here's Reyes running the floor, takes the feed from Cust, and he is hammered. Good foul by Aaron Senegal, stopped the easy basket, and Reyes had the presence of mind to throw the ball up at the hoop. So he's going to get 2 shots for his trouble. That's a heady play there by Reyes.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was a hard foul. Reyes took a shot right there, but like you said, smart being able to control and chuck that ball up so he can go to the line.
Senegal was trying to get the smart foul outside. I don't think he expected Reyes to just throw that ball up, and Reyes perhaps anticipating the contact.
Yeah, I think that's why Senegal's frustrated right now. I don't think he's angry as much about the foul as he is the fact that Reyes was able to get that shot off and go to the line.
He makes the first. A lot of speed on this St. Thomas Aquinas team, and as this is our last home game, we'll have a little bit of a chance to talk about how this season has gone. It started with a trip to Spokane, Washington. Actually, it started with a trip to Carnesecca Arena to play an exhibition game on national TV against St. John's. Then it went to Spokane, Washington to take on the number 3 ranked Gonzaga Bulldogs as Berlin with a nice block there. As Kasim Jones trying to attack the hoop. And yeah, that was a loss by St. Thomas Aquinas, but don't think for a second that these guys don't remember that, hey, we were leading Gonzaga 5-2, and we were tied 10-10 in that game against a team that could win the national championship.
There you go.
These guys will all hang their hat on that, and they still talk about that experience. It's an amazing thing to be around the team and hear them still talk about that. Went out to Stony Brook, played another Division I game. There have been high points and low points, and St. Thomas Aquinas trying to make it happen, and Sam Berlin just came up with his 3rd block here in the early going. Reyes almost turned it over in transition. Yeah, he's going to want to get rid of the ball. Here's Cust wide open for 3. Go! Aaron Cust with a 3-pointer!
And credit Justin Reyes, and you said it at the exact time that it happened, Steve. He was getting double, possibly triple teamed down in the corner, and he a beautiful job of being able to turn his head and find Aaron Cuss, and it was cross-court pass, and then Cuss wide open, he nails it.
It's a 17-point STAC lead. As trying to cut that down is Sidbury. He misses, but the rebound is put up and in to make it 32-17 as Senegal with the finish. Here's Mitchell. Mitchell is bumped high. And a full line change, 5 players waiting at the scorer's table. And again, Tobin Anderson just loves to have his team coming in waves. You know, I was looking over the score sheet the other night. I'm not sure I've ever seen a team with 9 different players who average 15 or more minutes a game. It affects everybody's numbers individually. We've spoken before about how you're not going to see a lot of Spartans in the league leaders in any statistical category but there's just so much balance, and it plays very well into the style of game that Anderson is coaching this team.
Yeah, and you know, you look at the Kentucky, University of Kentucky got a lot of flack for this at the beginning of the year. You know, you can't just change 5 guys. You can't have that much of a rotation. Guys are going to get angry. Well, I'll tell you what, this is a prime example right here. Nobody gets angry. Nobody's mad about their minutes. What's their prime goal? We want to be a team, play hard every single day, and we want to win basketball games. The only number that matters to every single player and coach on this team is the win column, and they figured out a way to get there a lot.
9 minutes, 40 seconds to play here in the first half at Aquinas Hall. That pass is tipped away, so UDC keeps it. St. Thomas Aquinas with a 15-point lead, 32-17. Steve Balson, Andrew Romanella, Kevin Roth with you. St. Thomas Aquinas less than 30 minutes away from an ECC regular season championship if they can hold on to this lead. And right now, they are on a pace to score well over 100 points, 32 points at the midway point of the first half. St. Thomas Aquinas just feeling it today. They've had a little bit of a lull in their game in the last week or two, but they've still found a way to get wins more often than not, which is another sign of a maturing team. St. Thomas Aquinas with a fresh shot clock. Here's John McNair, hands off to Chaz Watler. Watler backdoor feed for Henderson. Henderson in traffic tries to throw it off a defender, and it goes right back to McNair. That's when you know it's going your way. Henderson doing jumping jacks on the right side. Spins into traffic, again looks for the feed for Odongo. It's the second time Odongo couldn't handle a Henderson pass cleanly. And Tobin Anderson saying the words that you never thought Marcus Henderson needed to hear. Shoot that, shoot that.
Yeah, and he was emphatic about getting that basketball too. It was actually kind of funny to watch because he was kind of smiling and smirking as he was jumping up and down and just trying to get the ball in his hands.
Well, again, I personally don't get to travel with the guys a lot. Went to Gonzaga with them, but I was at Mercy with them Tuesday night as McFarland forces a turnover. The Mick pair, McFarland and McNair. But chatting in the hallway a little bit and talking about trivia points about various guys, and Henderson smirked sheepishly and said, well, I got trivia for you. I'm not really 5'7". And I said, that's not really trivial, and it's not a surprise as Watler drives to the hoop and lays it home.
That's funny.
So we've been referring to him as generously listed at 5'7" for the last 2 seasons. Pope puts it down on the floor, gets fouled, gets the hoop, and he'll go to the line as Jerron Pope cuts it back to a 17-point game, make that a 15-point game. And he's got 6 points. He'll go to the foul line. And, you know, Romo, it reminds you reflect a little bit of the time like this of that early season game last year where Henderson did his Spider-Man act, crawling halfway up the wall to our right. And we speculated then, this young fellow is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And this is his last home game here, and he certainly has been all that and more.
Yeah, there's not a lot of players that can come make an impact on a program in only 2 years, but Marcus Henderson is one of those guys. And you know, it goes beyond his basketball playing skills. It's his enthusiasm and his energy and his love for the game. And you just can't help but love the kid and just want to bring anything to the table because he's so high energy.
The coach said shoot it, I'm going to shoot it. Henderson's second three-pointer of the game. It's a 17-point Spartan lead.
I tell you what, no better of a day for him to be feeling it than right now on senior night. Just a nice job by Marcus Henderson, and he's hitting them from deep today as well, Steve.
He likes that. He'll shoot them from a few feet behind the arc. And I think when you're vertically challenged, when you're a guy that's probably closer to 5'5" than the 5'7" that you're listed at in a sport like basketball, and you're as superlative an athlete as Henderson is, I think you play your whole life with a chip on your shoulder. And he shows that sometimes. There he is. He's stepping in traffic. He's got outstanding leaping ability. He can shoot with the best of them. And that pass goes right through the hands of Shaq McFarland. And you see that reflected in the way he plays. He plays with that little bit of attitude that says, hey, I don't care what the measuring tape says. I can play this game.
Yeah, and being a guy that's been undersized my entire life now, you know, basketball, completely different animal, as that shot right there is made by Senegal. It's a completely different animal than basketball, but you gotta love to see the way Henderson carries himself because of that size disadvantage. And without that chip, Steve, I don't think it makes him the player he is, because there's that added motivation, that added drive to not only just be irrelevant, but he is on most nights, on some nights, the best player on the floor. And you just gotta give him a lot of credit for that.
Here's Henderson with a fall-away 15-footer as an air ball. It comes loose for Ruiz, who throws it home and is fouled. down. Justin Reyes brings the crowd to its feet at Aquinas Hall, and a chance for more.
Yes, that's exactly what this gym needed. They've been waiting to explode all day, and Justin Reyes gave it to him, and in an unconventional manner, too. They were just a fight for the basketball. It just kind of rolled in between his legs. He went up with one hand, and he finished.
Not sure how that ball found its way into the freshman's hands, but it did. And once it got there, he acted like he'd been there before. He knew what to do with it. It's an 18-point lead and a turnover on an offensive foul as Kasim Jones picks up his second on the push-off.
And Jones has gotten close all day with that, Steve. I mentioned it before on Jonathan McNair, on Jonathan McNair, excuse me. He kind of shoved off. McNair got called for the foul, that time on Kasim Jones.
Reyes almost got away with a walk there. Here's McFarland outside. STAC settling down a little bit. You mentioned the crowd getting involved, and from the time Henderson hit that first three-pointer, there has been a real rise every time a Spartan has done something well, just like that. As Alshuma Odongo drives to the hoop. It's a 20-point STAC lead and a foul on the play.
And we were wondering if they were going to think too much about this basketball game, Steve. I'll tell you what. Whatever Tobin Anderson and his staff said before this basketball game, they hit every button and some, because this team has come out. They've hit on all cylinders, and they're fun to watch right now.
You know, Romo, I think that's it's an interesting point, because I'm not sure this team is thinking anymore. They just execute. There's a point as an athlete where you can't think. You just don't have that time. You have to act on instinct. And so much of what the Spartans are doing on the floor right now, we can see, has been ingrained in them over the course of months. It started with that trip to Seattle, to Spokane, Washington, and game by game by game, they've bought into it. And this is a STAC team right now that is up by 20, and with no signs of letting the foot off the gas pedal just yet.
And we had a lot of discussion after Georgian Court game about what would happen, which way would this season go, can they respond? And I'll tell you what, respond is an understatement, because that could have easily derailed their season, Steve. And they could have gone downhill, not had as good of a year, but it's almost as if Tobin and his staff turned that into a learning experience. Hey, these things are going to happen. We're going to lose bad games. We're going to lose to bad teams. But as long as we make it a momentary thing, it's a one-game thing, we come back out the next day, we get right back on the horse, and we go and dominate. And that's exactly what they did. And I'll tell you what, they've been on fire since then.
And at the risk of playing armchair psychologist, the Spartans had been in a bit of a habit at that point in the season of gaining big leads in the second half and letting them evaporate, and usually finding a way to win. They did it against Damon here in a very big game, and the Spartans came away with a win. I can raise the point, and I would stand by it, that I think they needed to lose that Georgian Court game. If they had gotten out of that with a victory, the lesson might not have been learned. But you can bet that team was in practice at 5 a.m. the next morning and has not forgotten that game, and they won't anytime soon. They have been a different team since then. They've gotten some big leads, and we have seen them absolutely annihilate teams in this building. We saw them do it to Queens. We saw them do it to Dowling. Dowling's a playoff team. And this St. Thomas Aquinas team right now has doubled up UDC. It's 42-21 with 7 minutes to play in the first half. Here's Beauplan on the left side. He puts up a floater, but that's an air ball. And running the floor, 3 Spartans on Wadler. And for Reyes, who lays it home. The Globetrotters are in town.
And that's what you love about Chaz Wadler. He could have easily taken that up himself. Instead, he looks for the assist, gives it to a player, and Reyes finishes.
Reyes blocked Pope, but a great second effort by Jerron Pope. He's come to play today. He's got 8.
Yeah, and Jerron Pope's a big body down low. He stands at 6'5", and he's a beast and somebody that's reckoned with in this conference. And right now, he's the only player on UDC that looks comfortable doing anything offensively.
Wadler with a crossover. Judah leaves his man on the floor as Ritson went to the deck. And the shot was missed, though, on the layup by Chaz Wadler. Has a word for the fans in the corner. And right now, again, Tobin Anderson going to the fresh legs, getting a big hand. This crew coming to the deck with 6:21 to play in the first half, and St. Thomas Aquinas riding a 21-point lead.
And we talked about making sure there was no lull before this game, Steve, and I don't think there has been. And I think the biggest thing for Tobin and his staff, as you can see right now, still pressuring, high tempo, not allowing themselves to slow down, continuing to play aggressive defensively, because that's when they got themselves into trouble earlier in this year.
James Mitchell called on a hand check as Masner Beauplan, freshman out of East Orange, New Jersey, was bringing the ball into the forecourt. 6th foul on St. Thomas Aquinas, so it'll be the 1-and-1 here after. UDC has committed 8 in the first half. And Kasim Jones hands off for Beauplan, guarded by Mitchell. pass down low for Pope. Not a great pass by Sidbury, and it's off Pope's hand. Spartans now in transition. DeCourtney, wide open three, off the side of the backboard. DeCourtney, though, gets his own rebound. Here's Cust for three. Good. Aaron Cust with a three-pointer, his second of the game, 9 points.
It's beginning to feel like they're going to get 100 in this half, Steve. And right now, anybody that touches the ball is going to knock something down. And Aaron Cust, I'll tell you what, we haven't talked about him as much this season, but there's a lot of maturity in his game as well. And right there from the perimeter, you saw it.
Pope with a great follow on the offensive board. He's fouled on the way in. And as I said, Jerome Pope has come to play this basketball game. Nothing but full respect for that young man as he has gone into the trenches and battled with this STAC squad from the get-go. So something to feel good about for the UDC side as the junior will go to the line where he's already 2 for 3.
Yeah, and you talked about it before. What are we going to do to finish this season on a high note so we can get ready for next year, go into next year on a high note? Well, Jerron Pope being a junior, he's going to have to be a leader next year, and if this team wants to take a step up, he looks to be a guy they'll lean on to have that happen.
Also mentioned earlier, Cody Cooley, the freshman for UDC, the team leader in points with 16 a game, and he is not in action tonight as Pope makes both free throws. 10 points for Jerron Pope in a very good first half for the native of Washington, D.C., but it's a 22-point STAC lead, 47-25. Still 5 minutes and change to play in the first half. McFarland drives, Pope goes vertical, just gets a body on, but manages to distract the shot and grab the rebound. Here's Senegal in transition. Moving on to Courtney, pulls up from 16 left side, that's short. Prince Ritson taps it out to himself nicely. So a reset for the Firebirds.
Prince Ritson not necessarily playing a lot of minutes over the course of the year, only averaging 5 a game, has played a lot today, played hard, and done a lot, not necessarily shows up on the stat sheet, but playing very well in his last ball game as a senior.
And you mentioned, Romo, as a coach yourself now, with a program in a building stage, you can bet Mike Riley's going to look for things in a game like this. He's got players that are going to be returning. Ritson is not one of them. He's a senior playing in his last game, so there's significance for him as well. There's a lot to evaluate for a coach trying to bring a program up. But again, they can look right across the floor at Tobin Anderson and company as Berlin's shot is blocked by Pope. Ritson goes to the floor as he's battled by Berlin. Berlin gets up with a wince on his face. And Mitchell is called for the foul.
And the worst thing a coach could do when coaching a losing team is simply just go into a game looking for it to end. And I'm not saying that's necessarily going to happen with UDC, but you have to take something out of every game you play. So be it you're 5-22 or you're 22-5. You have to make sure there's learning experiences every single day, and especially when you're on that 5-22 side, how can we continue to take steps forward? You've already won 2 more games than you did last year. I know it's minute, but it is a step up. How can we make that step even bigger?
Ritson at the line, only 2 out of 4 on the season, misses this one. Beautiful bounce pass for DeCourtney from Henderson.
Such vision, Marcus Henderson, and right there from beyond the half-court line, a one-bounce pass to Jules DeCourtney for the finish. Beautiful job by Henderson, great vision.
Well, he's everywhere right now. It's a 24-point St. Thomas Aquinas lead, 49-25. And Henderson is a player who started this season with a different look. He wasn't playing with the same kind of confidence, that swagger that we talked about, that he really needs to be successful. Well, he's had it back over the last half of this season as that shot's off the mark by Senegal. DeCourtney wrestles in the corner, but Senegal comes away with it. Pass for Ritson. Ritson pump fakes once, twice, ducks under and lays it home. Prince Ritson with his first bucket.
Yeah, and I think that was a nice move by, Chaz Watler and Jules DeCourtney down low to not foul Ritson after his second pump fake. Could have easily fouled him. You're up by 22 at this point. Let the clock keep running. If you're going to give up an easy basket like that, that's fine. Get down, run your offense, run the clock.
DeCourtney, left corner for a long 2 is off. Pope outbattles Reyes for the rebound. Here are the Firebirds on the run. Beauplan almost walked. His layup is wild and off the mark. And that's not a way for the freshman to make inroads with the new coach.
Like you said, everything's a tryout right now, everything, and especially if you're an underclassman on this team, anytime you step on the floor today, you are trying out for what could happen next season.
Boy, Cust got grabbed on the way in and just ignored it and put it in the floater. He's got 11 first half points, does Aaron Cust.
and quietly that is, Steve. No one has really recognized how well the game Aaron Cuss is playing, both defensively and offensively.
Well, the Spartans have roughly a half a dozen guys who can put in that 6 to 8 points a game. And it's, we've said it before, death by 1,000 cuts. There's no one person you can shut down on STAC as both plans jumpers off. Pope out wrestles DeCourtney. Duck under layup attempt is off. Pope with the rebound. Ducks on the reverse layup is off the mark. Pope with a third chance, but he can't come away with it as DeCourtney finally got the big guy off the ball.
Wow. Just a second, third, fourth, fifth opportunity there for Pope. He couldn't finish, but credit the big man down low for working hard and giving himself every opportunity.
Pope comes out with a little bit of frustration and obviously a little fatigue there on the part of that big fella, because he has been wearing his team on his back in this first half, trying to keep them into this game. Although they do trail by 24. Marcus Henderson was fouled on the play. He's a 78% shooter, and he'll go to the line with a 24-point STAC lead, a 1-1. First end is good.
You know, it makes me smile every time I see Marcus Henderson's mom get excited. She's in the same seat every home game, down low, left-hand side. And I tell you what, you know, you can see where he gets his enthusiasm and his passion from, because his mother's got the same thing on the side.
And his looks. The resemblance is unmistakable.
You're right. You're all right. That's what makes sports such a beautiful thing.
We have to say he's a stunning-looking guy then, because his mom is in the seats. 25-point STAC lead. A nice split on the defense, but the layup attempt by Jones is off the mark. And again, UDC attacking the basket, but not getting any result. Henderson hung in midair for 15 seconds until he found Jules DeCourtney, who puts it home.
Well, I wonder what that luxury is like, to be able to stay suspended in air until you can make a decision. But credit every single player on this floor right now for the Spartans, because nobody gave up on that play. They could have seen Henderson going down and have two outlet passes, but DeCourtney said, no, I'm going to fly down as well, give my point guard a third option, and he's the one that got it.
This is one of those times where I wish we had replay. Of course, it would be nice all the time, but of course, that was Henderson's third look. He hung in the air, he looked right, he looked left, and then he looked behind him all in midair.
Yes.
As a turnover on UDC.
Like a quarterback.
Yeah, well, like a quarterback with his feet planted. The quarterback at the stand there. Henderson did all that in midair. That's amazing.
And you mentioned his athleticism. That's it right there. I mean, the kid, for his size, he jumps out of the gym, and it's fun to watch.
Well, Aaron Senegal picks up his third foul while we're busy yapping. It's a 27-point St. Thomas Aquinas lead, 54-27. St. Thomas Aquinas, with a victory today, would be crowned the ECC regular season champions. Now, that does not come with any accolade or anything other than a title, as Watler from the right side misses. Reyes flushes it.
Wow. Justin Reyes, and you know what's funny is Jules DeCourtney attempted that. He kind of came up a little short, and on top of DeCourtney, Reyes came out of nowhere and finished it. Man, that kid is enjoyable.
Can you be called for going over the back of your own teammate? I know in football it's illegal leverage. You can't do that, but holy smoke.
The scary thing is, Jules DeCourtney stands at 6'6", and it looked like Reyes was a half a body over his head, and DeCourtney was off the ground as well. Unbelievable athleticism.
Clenz O'Brien with the layup there, as it's 56-29, and Marcus Henderson prolonging the dribble. Marcus, pick up the ball. You know, actually, that was a very brilliant play, because they couldn't start the shot clock, which meant that they were able to turn the clock off now, and the Spartans could hold for one. There would have been about a 4-second difference. So even in the last 30 seconds of the half, there is just court presence and clock management. It looked like a silly play on its surface, but when you get below the surface, it's a smart play. Spartans now with a 27-point lead and a chance to hold for one with 10 seconds to go, as Henderson finds Watler. Here's Kasim Jones eyeing him up. Henderson left side with 5 seconds. It's a three. That one's out. DeCourtney catches it, and he's pushed on the play, and we'll see who the foul is on. It is on UDC. I believe it might be Sidbury.
Well, and that court presence you talked about right there, Steve, is something that they were lacking in the first half of this season. And we've actually seen a lot of bad possessions at the end of the half. So right here you see the exact opposite.
And again, just a sign that coaching is taking hold. Court presence, court awareness, you can work on it so much. DeCourtney, a 53% foul shooter, makes the first. He's got 5 first-half points. 1.7 seconds to go in the first half. DeCourtney drains 2 out of 2. It is all going for St. Thomas Aquinas, and UDC is just going to go into the halftime locker room with the St. Thomas Aquinas College Spartans 20 minutes from their first ever ECC regular season championship. At the half, STAC 58, UDC 29. An impressive start for the Spartans at St. Thomas Aquinas.
Might have been one of the best first halves we've seen them play, and it just, from an entire team standpoint, offensively, defensively, creating turnovers, running the floor, moving the basketball, and then the overlying recognition that, hey, you know what, let's go out here and have some fun.